guys, what's going on? Let's go ahead and jump into our Art War 2 character here. Well, our Art War 2 companion, I guess. We'll be at least focusing on him for a little bit, and we'll see what we can accomplish today. Walter says, thanks for your videos. Absolutely, Walter. Thanks for coming and hanging out on the stream. Hopefully we can learn you something new today. Hopefully I can learn something new today too. Alright, so we got Bork. Let me adjust our little monitor here. So let's zoom out first. So Akala and Bork. These are this is my character, you know, for the Art War 2 competition. And Bork here is her companion character. And they deliver mail for the dark side, essentially. In a way, they are in charge of delivering high priority items and the such. And Bork here is her companion who carries said items in his little carrying case here. I want to redo these little straps that I did on him and try to find a little bit of a better way to do that. And I had one idea where what I would do was have him holding like a string, a rope that was attached to the ends of this thing. But then I would have to change his tongue and his expression a little bit. I don't know, I kind of like it the way it is right now. I kind of like this expression. And hello, Mac Store, how you doing? Hope you're well. So I want to let's hide some stuff real quick. We'll hide that, and we'll hide our weapones, and we'll hide our rock and our grass. So now we're just focusing on the Borkster. So yeah, you can check out what I've done here thus far. I'll turn off perspective too, just so we can kind of get a little bit of a better view here. So I've kind of just wrapped these around him, and then I combined this geometry. It would have been better if I didn't combine that geometry, in all honesty, I think. But I think we can make this work. I don't. Maybe it's simply the placement. So let's try to talk through it and figure it out. So what I want. Let's merge this. I want this little canister to be visible from our front view. I want it to possibly, you know, it's okay if the envelope isn't visible, I guess. I do want it to be visible in some manner, some respect. Which is why I was thinking it might be... Maybe if I just move it down a little, do some rotation, just find a little bit of a better placement for it. Because one of my main problems with these straps that were holding this is that they're kind of just going straight across his body, and it's a little awkward. But if it's going maybe around the underside of his belly, that might be a little bit better. We might be able to make that work. So let's try to play with it and see if we can make it a little bit more appealing. Because right now, not a fan. Not a fan. And if we can make some of this little design visible from the front view as well, I would appreciate that. That's why I put it there, so that it could be seen for our final render. Our final render, yes. Turn on perspective a little bit there. I was trying also on this. I wanted it to be obvious that this was like he's like a mail. It's like a little mail carrier or something. It's got an envelope in it. And just kind of play around with that idea to get some of those ideas across. I want to make sure that shadow catches there. So I tried to give it a little bit of a bevel in, just to help deepen that shadow. And that'll be even more obvious in a render and in something where, like in Keyshot, if I render in there or something like that, that'll be even more obvious. And it'll help pull that shadow out. Our plane, like, ZBrush isn't great at what would exemplifying form, I guess would be the phrase that I would use. That's why you have to change your material a lot. Try to get it in a little bit of a different view. Try to see it in a little bit of a different light. Hence, moving around the light quite often. I think that helps. But yeah, ZBrush isn't super great at that. Just with, you know, some default materials here. You want to switch stuff around quite often. Alright, and I'll show you guys how I created at least the base straps. I want to do something a little... Ooh, idea. Alright. So he's like a little stitched, kind of stuffed animal kind of dude. What if we just like stitch it into him? What if we just sew it into his body and it's just like actually a part of him? It's like sewn into him. That would be a pretty cool idea. So let's try to do that. I don't know how it'll work exactly from this angle. I'd probably want to make sure it's in a spot that I'm happy with before I go making changes to his form. But I think we can do that. Tato! Long time no see! It's going great. Tato forgot his headphones at home. They're at work right now, so I can't hear, but I am watching. Not a problem, Tato. Glad to have you here always. Even if you don't have your headphones, not a big deal. Maybe you can find a workmate. Workmate? It's been a while since I've been in a traditional work setting. Maybe ask someone around you, see if you can grab some headphones. So what I'm going to do, I'll show you guys something cool here. So I just duplicated our little mail carrier item there. Turn that music down a little bit too. I have this cylinder geometry, you know, I box modeled this using ZModeler. I'm gonna reconstruct some subdivision levels. Get it to a decent place. I'm gonna delete higher. And what I want to do is I want to create some I'm gonna use my curve tube brush. You can use any curve brush. If you have like a rope brush or something you wanna do, if you're doing something similar. But what I'm going to do here is hide or just delete entirely the geometry over here. So what I think I'm just gonna hide it for now. So hide that. I'll turn on double as well. And over here, whoop, come on, hide that. And that's a clean selection. And I think I will delete that. We don't want it to get in the way. Grab your curve brush of choice, and what's great about curve brushes, one of the many things that's great about them, is that you can actually get them to conform to an open edge. You might actually be able to conform them to... No, you cannot. I believe it has to be an open edge. Something like this, where the geometry ends directly there. So, what I can do now is click... Had a missed call there from some random junk mail number. Junk mail. Spam call, whatever you want to call it. But click and drag on an open edge with your curve brush. Hold the shift key. And it should snap around that edge. Just like that. I use this all the time. This is... And that actually... And what's also great about that, it also conforms to the number of steps of geometry you have. So if I wanted this to be a lower poly cylinder here, I could step down one more subdivision level, and that would make that a little bit lower poly. But I think that's pretty good. I might make my brush a little bit bigger, something like that. And now it's actually, because I clicked and drug on that, it's gonna do it anyway. It's gonna add a few more points in there. I'm actually fine with that. That's not a problem for me. But I think I like that. I think I'm happy with that. So let's try that on the other side. Or if I wanted to, I could just, instead of redoing that, I could just take this, come over here, click on a flat surface so my transpose line is lined up, ready to go, and just duplicate by control click dragging. Also holding the shift key so it's on this axis perfectly. And put it down there. And just like that, we have the beginnings of some rope that we can place there. And maybe we want it a little thicker, a little more thick. Let's try inflating it by 1 unit. Okay. Maybe one more. See what we can come up with here. Let's try that. All right, and now let's find a way that we can kind of stitch this into our little Bork boy here. Let's see, what did I miss? Anubis says, "Show me the cools." Show me the cools and nobody gets hurt. Why is ZBrush so amazing? This feature, I wanted this feature so much, never knew how to do it. Well, hopefully that was helpful for you. That's why we do these things, so I can do the normal mundane stuff that I do quite often. And I think you always learn something new from watching somebody else. I definitely do when I'm watching other people sculpt. That's one of the main ways that I study, is just trying to find people that are, it's very easy for me to find people that are better than me, but find those people and then watch them sculpt, watch them work, buy some quality tutorials, and maybe not follow along, but watch and garner what I can from them. Vaunt says, "Hello again." Welcome, Vaunt. And Anu says, "What is that kawaii character?" That's Bork, dude. That's Akala's companion for my Art War 2 character. He is the one who carries the mail. He's the mail boy. He's the pachyderm package delivery. Not a pachyderm. Isn't a pachyderm a donkey? Is that correct? Honestly, I don't know off the top of my head. And Spychar, welcome to the stream, everybody. Hope you're all doing well. I most certainly am. I'm kind of trying to line this up. Let's how do I want to do this? How? Curve tube. Let's open up our curve functions here. As line, do not snap, and something like that. Okay, not quite. I don't know why that's so small now. It's really weird. I was just drawing it this size. 7. Or no, I did inflate that, I guess. Here. Stop. Alright. Be bigger, please. Okay. So what I'm trying to do here is just line some things up. Get a basis of where to go. So let me move that there. Control Shift click and drag. Just lining this up in a fairly basic way real quick. Delete hidden, and I'll just do this. I'll try to line that up decently well. Control click, drag, holding Shift. Get that down there. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. And now to kind of add some curve here and there. try to line this stuff up, see what we can do. We also have quite a few edge loops in here. It makes it a little bit more difficult to work with. I'm not going to delete any though. I'm just going to kind of soften some masks and hope that we can kind of come to a resolution here by doing that. We shall see what we can do. Alright, so I got my rotation transpose on. Just kind of trying to make this look like it's pulled taut. I probably will delete edge loops just so that's not so warbly through there. Let's do the same thing down here. Something like that. Maybe I might change the scale on that. Let's delete our old junk here. Don't need that anymore, right? Yawn, yawn, yawn. Alright. I don't know, I think we'll make it work. We will make it work. Oh, I also want to show you guys a cool thing on these rocks that I did here in a sec. Let's see. This is so Little Big Planet. Yeah. In a way, I didn't really think of it, but yeah, he's got that what's the character's name? Sackboy or whatever. He's got that feel to him. A pachyderm is an elephant. Of course it is. My mistake. Well, donkey and an elephant, they're pretty much the same thing, right? All right, so I'm gonna show you guys something really cool on the rocks here. Really quick, and then we can jump back. But on the rocks, you can see all this, all these scratches and all this texture we have on there. These are actually decimated, which is fine. You can do that with decimated geometry. It really doesn't matter. But the way I got this effect on here, really, really easy. I use this on skin, in pores, on the face, or wrinkles on hands. Like you can use this in tons of different stuff. Very, very useful. But what you want to do is go into your tool menu, scroll on down under masking, and go into mask peaks and valleys and click that button. And there are a bunch of different options and variations that you can get by messing with the range and coverage slider there. But essentially what that's going to do is it's going to mask, well, your peaks and valleys. And you can invert that if you want. And you can see that we're getting this really cool kind of, you know, anywhere where the rock is sharp or possibly more exposed or damaged and has a valley in it, like these little pockmarked areas, like here, and all these different spaces, it's highlighting those. It's masking them, right? And I can flip that mask and mess with either one. So all I had to do was go in here and fill in a different color in that area. And I just made it a little bit more lighter, like it was kind of worn down, and it gave it this really nice kind of scratched look. And it's really quick and easy to get something like that. And I'm a huge fan of that peaks and valleys. I use that quite often as well. Definitely would recommend trying that on a character, trying that just to get some variation in color. You can use it to add some texture to specific areas. It's very, very helpful. There's other options in that mask palette as well, so definitely check those out as well. Some good stuff in there. Alright, back to the Borkster, figuring out how we're gonna sew in here into our pachyderm, even though he's not a pachyderm. But why not, you know? Bork identifies as a pachyderm, alright? So you guys should respect his wishes and call him a pachyderm. Let's delete, what's going on here? Come on, delete edge loop complete. That's what we want. This, do nothing. I'm just gonna come through and we'll delete 2/3-ish, maybe more of these edges. Let's try that first and see how that looks. Pretty good angle, pretty smooth. I think that's pretty good. So let's stick with that. So over here, same thing, or I'm sorry, on the bottom edge. I'm not gonna do it on the other side, I'm just gonna mirror this over. Oh, come on, delete, delete. My mouse, my pen is much more accurate than my mouse. Delete, delete. Make sure that's going all the way into the body. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Whoop, delete hidden. And then click on the flat so it's aligned properly. Control click drag, hold shift. Wham bam slam. Just like that. And I can actually delete quite a bit of the excess geometry here that's inside the mesh, as it's completely useless to us. If it ain't seen, it don't matter. And down here as well. And we can even close holes, sure. Turn off transparency. And now we have all this set up. It's about figuring out placement and all that. So I want to see what this looks like if it's aligned with his kind of stitching here running down his side, and then try to sew it in that way. I think that'll look a little bit more natural. It might be facing too much up and down. Maybe we can add a little bit of twist to some of the rope, give it some weight, play with it that way, see what we can do. He sexually identifies as a attack helicopter, an attack helicopter. I have heard that one. Anubis says, do you mind if I do some models in your style? I find it really cute and very Coraline-esque too. Absolutely not. Or yeah, I do not mind at all. I wouldn't call this my style. I think my style is just kind of I think my style, what I like to create is what I'll say. What I like to create is somewhere between the style of Nintendo and Disney, and where those meet, somewhere in that gradated line lies Follygon. But if you want to copy this and do something similar, by all means, I would love to see it. That's why we hang out and stream, so we can learn from each other and try some new things. Hopefully, you get some good ideas from just looking at some of the stuff here. I can show you how I created a little bit of some negatives there, and we got some stuffing poking out, and how I created like to make it look like some stitches are going into this area. And if you have any questions about that, I can absolutely show you that stuff. I don't know if you were around for that stream. That was a little bit ago, but we can look at that stuff, as well as figuring out how we're gonna do this. So something I want to do, I'm gonna stitch these together, because I wonder, okay. Let's line this up first and then figure out what we need to do with the stitching and the rope. Okay, so let's rotate this. Turn on transparency. rotate. I don't want to cover up his little stitch hole down there. Find an angle. It's pretty high poly. This is like 4 million polygons here, so it's rotating very slowly, and if I kind of yoink it really hard, it's gonna freak out on me, and I don't want it to freak out on me, so I'm trying to be a little cautious. Trying to barely rotate this at a time. And whoa, quick save. Thank you very much. Okay. And actually, everything is kind of still visible from this angle, so I'm very happy with that. Let's try to get a little more rotation. We'll move forward. And I think we can make this work. I think I'll fix some of the stitching and move it about a little bit better, just to make it look like it's taut and in the correct place. That's why we wanted to move that first. Figure out what that's going to look like. And let's do that now. Let's move some stuff around. Split it on. Thank you. Okay. I think I'm good to hide this. Essentially what I want now is to, I think this one's good, this back one. It's these front ropes that I want to adjust. So let's do an auto groups function here. And we will select this, and let's try masking it first, just to see if we can kind of manually move this and get it into an appropriate position. So I'm just going to rotate roughly from the center of our cylinder here and try to kind of just eyeball it. Worked out a little better than I thought it would. That's always good. That is a good day, guys, when things work out when you don't expect them to. Let's see. I want to move this up a little bit. Scared me. Thought I was about to crash. Lagged for a little second there. I'm just kind of trying to slide that up a little bit. Now I'm just going to touch my eyeball. Move my contact for a sec. Whew! Let's see. Snitches get stitches. Good morning, Folly. Have some OJ. I don't. Oh, I have some OJ in my refrigerator. I could go grab some. I haven't cracked it open quite yet. Anubis says, this is bothering me a lot. How do you do realistic fur? Sculpting hair strand by hair strand doesn't result in realistic fur, but in Disney fur. Realistic fur, like if you want it to actually look like fur, you would probably want to do some kind of hair farm style software. Do something with curves maybe in Maya and generate some hair or some fur that way. But sculpting realistic hair and sculpting realistic fur is pretty difficult. I think sculpting stylized hair and fur is less difficult, but it's still difficult to make it look good by all means, absolutely. So if you want realistic stuff, if you want it for sculptural, you're just gonna have to sculpt it, and it's not gonna be it's not going to be easy, and it's going to take quite a while. Tried facial hair, but the brushes are too short, too random. Thinking of finding some images of fur and projecting them from the image with spotlight. I don't think that would work. And Ron Weasley says, hi guys, what's going on? And I'm just gonna call you Alves, or maybe just Alvin and the Chipmunks. But welcome to the stream either way. Glad to have you here. All right, so let's split our rope off again. What's going to be our rope? And split here. Split hidden. Alright. So, what I could do is I could stitch this geometry together. It's really not that hard, but it's a little time consuming. I'm not sure if that's the route I want to go though. I think I would prefer... Man, this contact. My contacts have been bothering me so much lately. This is a brand new pair. And I don't know what's going on. I just need to get them lasers shot in my eyes already. I've actually gotten lasers shot in my eyes once before when I was a kid. I think I was around 12 or 13 maybe. And I was out playing in the woods with my friends. And my friend Ryan picked up a log and he slammed it against a tree. And 1 in a million chances, this little piece of the log flies off and hits me right in the eye. And it like pretty much knocked me out. And I remember waking up on my friend's driveway. I'm bleeding and it hurt so bad I threw up, and I ended up tearing my retina in my eye, and I had to go get peripheral laser eye surgery, corrective laser eye surgery, to reattach a torn retina. And that was one of the most painful things I've had happen in my entire life. That was not fun. But now I need that good direct laser eye surgery to LASIK to correct some vision eventually. But apparently that's not. Apparently peripheral vision is very painful, which it was. Direct vision is not quite as bad from what I understand though. But yes, that was a good old time. I had to wear an eye patch. I was pretty much a pirate for a little while there. That was a good time. There we go, guys. Mondays with Folly. Good old Monday story. Let's delete some end caps. So it's talking about stitching these together. It's really easy to do this. I'll show you here in a sec. I want double on. I don't know why that's not on by default. Undo that. You do want your edges to kind of line up if you can. It's very helpful for that. This is just really high poly. Let's delete a bunch of these edges. Just gonna delete 3/4 of them. I wish there was a function to go around a tube or any piece of geometry and reduce the edge loop count. To my knowledge, there is not. You kind of have to do it manually like I'm doing here. But if there was, that would be so cool. That would save me a bunch of time on a lot of stuff. Because this is just mindless clicking and adjusting. Just take a torch light and shine those, fixes everything. I'm so sorry about your eye incident. I had a classmate years ago having an eye cut in half, and it somehow merged after months. What? I know that eyes are like miraculous self-healing organs. So when they do LASIK, when they do laser eye surgery, I don't know if you guys know this, but the lens of your eye. So like if you look at your eye from the peripheral, it's got like a little, you know, your lens, the bulge there. They slice that. This is so disgusting to even talk about. They slice it and then they flap it up so that they can shine the laser without burning the lens of your eyeball. They flap it up and just let it sit there and then shine the laser in your eyeball. And after they're done, they just, it's like a hatch. They just like close it and it like pretty much reseals and heals itself like almost instantly. It happens very quickly. But it's so gross. So gross to think about and so gross to talk about. But yes, the eye is magic healing properties. It's like Wolverine from the X-Mans. Alright, so let's try and stitch these up. So I'm duplicating this because I'm not sure if I want that to go through the back edge yet or not. Alright, so I'm going to take this and the straight piece here, essentially just delete this geometry. I'm just trying to make this so that there's a little bit of a gap there. I'll do the same up top. Same here. Then merge these together, just like that. Z-modeler brush, bridge edges, and I'm just going to bridge these together. Pretty simple. Our music just like completely vanished. Alright, let's continue here. Well, that's not what we want. Let's delete that junk. The heck? Alright. Back to bridging. So the reason I'm doing this is so that we can get that illusion of it wrapping and then being taut across that area. And then hopefully do what we did with the stitching on the side and make it look like it's, you know, tied into the character. I'll try to do that. So just bridging these edges. And you'll notice that they're not lined up super well. So I'll show you a way that we can kind of clean that up too. Making sure that we bridge these cleanly. No weird overlapping edges going on. Oh, and last one down here. No. Perfect. Not perfect, but you get the idea. Okay, so now from here I could do something like delete that edge loop, I could delete that one, and then, you know, you could add an extra edge loop, or you could bevel the one you already have, and then take this new edge loop and rotate it, move it out, maybe clean up that one. You know, there's a lot of ways that you can kind of come through here now and clean these up. But also, you know, you can just auto groups these so they're nice and polygrouped individually, ready to go. Let's look at this. See how we're turning out here. So we got that weird little bump there. That's okay. We'll do the same thing that I just did. A little bit of a bevel. Let's get rid of that. Ooh, that's not good. A little bit of a bevel. That was very strange. Never seen that happen before. Although I'm not sure if I've ever beveled on a hidden piece of geometry like that. So that's something new. Another way that you can add edge loops in here really quickly is just by doing like a slice curve or something like that. It's really quick. And it seems very strange, but it works. I use it quite often for that. All right. So now we've got this look of it being wrapped around and then kind of being pulled taut into the character. We'll make him visible again. Just like that. Luna Lay, how's it going? I'm doing good. Anubis says, oh, sorry about the eye incident. Nope. No problem. Alright, so we've successfully kind of stitched this together at this point, and we have, I think, made that look pretty decent. I want to try a real quick Z-remesher here on a very low subdiv level, just to see if I can simplify that rounded edge a little bit better. See if it'll interpret it a little bit better. And it seems like it's done a decent job. I think I'm gonna stick with that and go from here. All right, so the objective now from this position, mRGB, skin shade 4, fill object, is to make it look as if these are stitched or sewn into the character's body. And I want to make sure that we're happy with the way that this is lined up before we do that, because that's gonna actually change this geometry on this guy. So let's turn everything on and look at what we're working with. All right, let's move and reposition this a little bit. Okay. Try to position this a little bit better than what we have right now. What is that? Oh, my grass. My grass is going through the bottom of our geometry there. Alright, transparency, so I can see what's going on. Rotation. Try to rotate from here a little bit. Trying to line this up with his seam a little bit better here. Let's turn off our rock so we can actually see. So lining that up with the seam a little bit better now for sure. Now just a matter of making sure that that looks good from the front angle with our perspective turned on. Can still see the design of that, so I'm pretty happy with that. I think that's good. So now it's just a matter of subtracting those ropes and creating that illusion of it going into the character in an appropriate way. So let's hide our gal, Akala. Whoops, wrong one. All the way to the top, please. Come on, scroll. There we go. The start groups here, by clicking the eyeball show and hide icon on those at the start group, you can hide the entire group that's under that. So for the weapon here, I have this piece of geometry, but if I click the eye on that icon, it's going to hide that entire group. And that's only if it's not selected as well. Alright guys, so I think we're looking much better here. Just a matter of, let's see. Oh, these are combined. A little confused there. So let's hide some of this stuff and then split hidden. Okay, got the ropes, split hidden, geo, and then let's also make this a separate group, so split hidden, hide that, and I want to position, I think this one a little bit better. Rotate it in some more. From here. Rotate from this point in. Trying to get it closer to that seam line. Rotate in. Let's just hide, well, I can't really hide that. I need that to be somewhat visible. So this is like starting to angle out. I don't want that. I want it to obviously, you know, continue to wrap in and then pull tight. It's got to look like it's kind of connected on the inside of the character. And if it has an S-curve, that doesn't really physically make much sense there. So let's correct that and figure out what we're doing. And I can't, you know, I can only change this so much from some of these angles. Rotate a little bit more there. All right, and here, that one's fairly close to that. So let's see if I can just kind of move this down or something. Let's try to change this angle ever so slightly. We will make it work. Ex-Hudman, the HUD boy, what's going on? It's been a while. Glad to have you here. We're working on the Borkster and attempting to literally tie in this little package and sew it onto the side of our good boy. He's a little Sack'em Stitch boy. What's his name? Sack Boy from Little Big Planet. Is there a Sack Man in Little Big Planet? That's the real question. Or a Sack Girl. There's got to be a Sack Girl or a Sack Woman of some kind. That seems a little counterintuitive, hence the sack. But you know, what do I know? I've been really trying to get that closer to the stitch seam there. That one's kind of screwing with me. Maybe. Alright. So, I was talking about how are we going to create these shapes, these negatives for this, to make it look like it's kind of going into the character. The main way that I like to do that typically is do some kind of boolean, whether that's Dynamesh or live boolean, whatever you like doing. And then from there, softening that transition after you've made the subtraction. And then after that, let's do this. And then after that, going around the edge and either inflating it or doing something to bring out that edge and exaggerate that more. So from here, you know, it looks like the surface is pulling in, tucking in, but also bubbling out around that. So it looks like it's interacting with the surface pretty well. So I think the best way to do that is with a boolean. If you don't want to do a boolean though, I think you can still get the same effect just by pressing in the geometry there. It's a little bit harder and it can be a little frustrating to work with. We're gonna try it that way first because I don't feel like doing a boolean on this again at this point. So I'm just gonna try to eyeball it with my standard brush and push it in a little bit around that area. And if I miss, I'll just kind of move it around with my move brush and see what we can do. Just like that, and soften it a little bit, come in with an inflate brush. I think this works pretty well here. Geometry's pretty stretched. As you can see there, we're getting the fractaling, the lower polys visible. So let's go around and inflate a little bit strong. Let's do maybe like a 7. Inflate. Around that edge. Maybe soften again. Move around a little bit. And try to get a decent interaction between those two. And switch your material if you're having trouble kind of seeing what's going on. I think that'll work though. We can kind of replicate that along all these other faces. This one will be annoying because it's so close to this edge here. So I might kind of move this a little bit just to make room for some stuff. So move that, move this piece of geometry as well. Just trying to move this in actually. It doesn't want to play nice. Kind of trying to get that out of the way. And coming in here, let's try to do the same thing. Create that big negative first, use our move brush to line it up. What do you guys think of Bork? How's he looking thus far? Especially after the changes that we've made. Trying to add in our little package. Not a pachyderm package as we said before, because we were egregiously incorrect. It was very, very embarrassing. Although, at the same time, my big dumb brain says all sorts of stuff, so it happens. It happens. But I think he's looking a lot better now. I think I'm a lot more happy trying to tie this into the actual character here. Literally. Literally tie it into him. A little bit of inflate around the edge here. I'm using the alternate smooth on this because it's not quite as strong, and it's gonna help average out the smoothing more so than standard smooth. So So it's going to give me a little bit of a better effect for what I'm looking for here. It will average out the polygons a little bit better. All right. A little bit around that area. The geometry is pretty stretched here, so it's not acting in a way that I'm extremely happy with. It's actually stretched pretty hard in a lot of different areas, but we will try to make it work. So Nubis was asking earlier about doing something in this style, so hopefully this also gives you some ideas for that. I'm going to turn off the color on this, go white, do like basic here. You guys can see how dirty this is. So we might want to get some more polys in there. It's much easier to work without color on. Much easier to do sculptural changes and fixes. Thinking maybe if I just don't push that in quite as much, it won't get quite as stretched. But this is such a small scale though, like we're zoomed in pretty hard here, so it's really I'm not worried about it being fractaled like that. It's not the end of the world, and it's not really going to be seen at any such scale. Especially since our little canister is covering a great deal of that up. Alright, let's do transparent ghost. I can't see anything here, so right there. In. Needs to be larger. Try to inflate some of this, and I think that'll do it. And if we do want to add some more resin here, I probably wouldn't subdivide past this point, because then we're going to start getting into the 10 million zone, and on the other one it'd be closer to 15 million. And that's pretty high for something like this. What I would prefer to do is just Dynamesh it and then even out the polygons, so they're not so stretched in these areas. And I think that would be a lot better route to go. But yes, much better in terms of the interplay between those two objects. And of course, let's turn our canister on now that we've done that. This geometry here, I think, let's do keep that on. Let's do so that it wraps all the way around and then plays there. Alright, so let's show all perspective on. We'll do a quick save and we'll check this out. Alright. A little laggy. We're at right about 40 million on it, close to 40 million polys. This isn't an accurate number of your poly count. This is a number of your points or your vertices, and it's not quite your poly count, but it's pretty close. It's a good estimator. Now the question is, does it look like it's sewn into him? I think it kind of does. One thing that I'm not super happy about on our little Bork boy here is the stuffing that I created. I created like hide the rock here. I created a couple holes in him so you can see his stuffing kind of poking through. I'm not sure if I'm a huge fan of that. I like the idea. Don't get me wrong. I'm not sure if I like the actual texture that I've done on that, texture and color. But it's the best that I've got so far, so I might play around with that some more. Really, I'm not sure if it gets the point across, because, you know, I haven't received too much feedback on the actual stuffing. But I think I want to Dynamesh this, like I was saying earlier, just to even out the polygons, because they're so stretched. I'm Dynameshing at 4K, the highest resolution possible. This is a really low scale model, or small scale model in ZBrush. This piece, or just the character in general, is half a unit tall. Dynamesh works in relation to the scale of your characters, or not your characters, but your geometry that you're working with, and that can have a huge effect on your stuff here. But even Dynameshing to a lower poly count, it should give us an even more even distribution of polygons than what we previously had. And it combines all the crap that needs to be fixed as well, which is very good. Let's just fill in that material. Dynamesh this one as well. 4K, Dynamesh. Actually, before I do it here, his legs have been something I've kind of wanted to correct. Maybe not correct, but improve on. So maybe do that first, because I have subdivs right now. And it's a little easier to do that kind of thing with subdivision levels. So let me find my Rocky Mountains. And let's see what we got. I'm just trying to look at this from some different angles. The legs here that I created, they're just short, stubby little things. Intentionally, of course. Originally, they were pretty much just fat cylinders that kind of tapered down, and then from there, I just added a little bit of angle to them to create like the generic bone structure of a quadruped. So in the front, bending pretty similar to your human arms, and in the back, some pretty much the opposite angles are present there. Raphael says easy fix will be fiber. I'm not entirely sure what you mean by that. I might have been talking about something else when you mentioned that, but if you could clarify, I'm not entirely sure what you're talking about. An easy fix for which area? I also want to, speaking of easy fixes, pull that in. Don't want this stuff hanging out. For the stuffing, yes, you could use fiber mesh to create some stuffing, but you can't 3D print a bunch of little fibers. I work primarily sculpturally, so the way I like to think is, if I can't combine that into a solid watertight mesh, then there's very little desire for me to do it in that way. Fiber mesh you might be able to create some very visual, interesting stuff. And maybe we do mess with that. Maybe. At least for the time being. I think I'm gonna avoid it. I don't know how so many of these are kind of sticking out here. I think I already did this and then I experienced a crash right after, so I probably just lost it all after I cleaned all this junk up. Ugh. Irving, hey dude, I've been wondering how long have you used ZBrush? I've been using ZBrush for going on 4 years, roughly 4 years. But you know, with that question, I really dislike those questions because I think a lot of the time there's some weird intent behind those, and it's about figuring out how long does it take to be able to do what you're doing now. And I think that's kind of a bad way to look at things. I'm not sure if that's your intent, but what I would recommend is, you know, just because I've been using ZBrush 4 years doesn't mean that if you use ZBrush for 4 years, you wouldn't be much better than I. Because before I did ZBrush, I literally did nothing with art. Zero, zilch. But yeah, ZBrush is pretty much my only artistic 3D modeling is my only artistic endeavor. Pretty much my entire life. I don't do a lot of 2D stuff. I'm a very shitty drawer, very shitty painter. But that's because I kind of put all my eggs in one basket here, and I did that intentionally so that I could improve a lot in you know, what I consider a fairly short amount of time to get to the level that I'm at. When I set out, I went from 0, right? And I said, in 2 years, I want to be able to get a job full-time working in this software, working in ZBrush. And I did that after a year and 7 months, I think. It was, or a year and 8 months. It was a year and 9 months. So it was September, because I started using it in January 2014, I think. So a little over 4 years. But yeah, that was my goal, and I just kind of obsessed over it. It also depends, like, 4 years is a shitty time variable to, like, judge stuff, because that really doesn't mean anything, right? It's like, well, if you use ZBrush, if you study drawing 1 day a month for 4 years, you're probably gonna be pretty shit at it after 4 years, right? But it just kind of depends. Like, if I could add up all my hours, now that would be a valuable statistic, I think. But even that would be a flawed statistic, flawed number, because like, it's like, well, how many of those hours were like you examining stuff like I'm kind of doing right now and trying to think about what my next step is, or how much of that is like intentional deep dive study into what you're attempting to accomplish, which is also, you know. But what's the saying? Practice doesn't make perfect. Perfect practice makes perfect, or something like that. So even if you practice, you know, it could be shit. It's about practicing in the right way. It's about a lot of things, though. It's important to learn correctly. Like any class, if your teacher is bad, you can end up disliking the program or subject. I've had bad teachers, but I think you can end up not liking the program or subject even if you have a good teacher, if it's just frustrating and hard for you, which ZBrush definitely is frustrating to learn. Get a little overwhelming with all the features. Absolutely. which is why I created a course to focus in on all the features that you actually need to know, and it cuts all the BS, and that's why it's called the ZBrush Quick Start Guide on my Gumroad, an absolute beginner's guide, how to ZBrush, cuts all the BS, and those videos are free on my YouTube channel. That just gives you a bunch of bonus stuff in it, including the supercut, which is it gets rid of like all my advertisements, plugs for Patreon, all that junk. But if you're not interested in the bonus content, you know, I created the content for free to help people that were in a position similar to me starting out, which, you know, is everybody. Everybody started from zero, right? And that gets, like you said, overwhelming when you start from zero, and it's like, holy shit, I have no idea what I'm doing. I don't know what I don't know. That's what I always say. You know, when I started, I was like, I don't know what this is. I don't know what I don't know about it. I have no idea what I'm doing, but I want to do it. I at least want to try. And here we are today, still doing it. So, you know, something went right along the way. And back then, when I started, there was not a Follygon on YouTube. There was not someone to create a lot of quality video content to help out with a lot of these big questions that I had, which is why I got they're not on my table back there right now, but like everything that I learned was from a bunch of ZBrush books back then, and just a lot of trial and error and everything else to try to figure that out. And luckily, now I'm in a position to where I can kind of hang out with you guys and stream and share what I do know, try to answer some questions, pay it forward a little bit, and also it's just kind of fun to I fucked that up. Also, it's just kind of fun to hang out here, get some work done, and have someone to talk to, because my house is all empty, and I don't have any of my old ZBrush buds. When I worked, so I live in Cincinnati, Ohio. I used to work in a little town called Kenwood, which is right outside of Cincinnati, and I worked on toys and all sorts of stuff, and I was just surrounded by depending on what time of the year it was, like 3 to 7 or 8 people, depending on when it was, that could, you know, you could bounce work off of, bounce ideas off of, and that was so nice. Just to be surrounded by amazing artists all the time, be able to work with them. Having that environment, if you can get into a position like that, is you know, one of the most valuable things that you can get to grow as an artist. I think learning from others is it doesn't really exist so much anymore like it used to, like the whole mentorship idea, but it's so valuable. If you can find that kind of relationship, like, go for it. Absolutely. I'm all for that kind of stuff. But yeah, I think streaming is a great outlet to like share work and have a community of people to bounce ideas off of and hang out with. Absolutely. And then there's the let's see here if I can find it. The ZBrush Discord, which is a great community of people to hang out with and ask questions. There's a help channel, all sorts of stuff. It's extremely helpful people in here, places where you can share your work, get some feedback, sculpt some butts, tell people about it. Just hang out, talk with people that are doing similar stuff. And if you want to join that ZBrush Discord, there's a link on the About page of my YouTube. Let's see. Looking into it, not accepting your credit card. Honestly, I don't know how Gumroad acknowledges payments, all that stuff. So that's all on Gumroad's side. But like I said, if you don't want the bonus content, it's up to you. Like I said, the videos are cut into individual segments on my YouTube channel. Raphael says, I'm doing a 28 days of one sculpt a day. Been lacking a lot on ZBrush for the last few years and decided to put an end to that. After you like one of them, I came to see your artwork, and after I liked one of your things, came to see your artwork, and boy, you're good. You good. Boy, you good. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. That's very, very nice of you. And to go back to the ZBrush Discord, I created that ZBrush Discord, I don't know, it was like right after Discord came out. I was like, oh, this would be great for the ZBrush community, because do you guys remember I think it was 10,000 hours on Facebook? There's like a 10,000 hours group, and that was kind of general art stuff. I'm kind of noodling right now because I'm talking and I can't talk and sculpt at the same time. But anyway, I'll say this real quick. If you guys remember the 10,000 hour group on Facebook, it was more general, but it was a great community of people sharing work, getting feedback, lots of professionals in there. And that Facebook group went away, and that sucked. There was this weird, really strange fiasco that went around with that, and I wasn't really informed on what exactly happened there. But I think the ZBrush community, there's obviously Pixelogic's website and the forums there, but forums are a different communication method where, you post a question and then hopefully a week later somebody gets back to you. But on the ZBrush Discord, it's in real-time chat where if you ask a question, or if you want to share your work and hopefully get a good critique, you can maybe do that there and get some quick feedback from people. And it's just a little bit of a different experience. And it's something that I thought that the community needed, which is why I made it. I thought it could be really helpful to the community. And I really think that it has been extremely helpful to the community. And I hope that the people that are in there feel the same. I think it's a great place, like I said, to get feedback and critique and all that stuff. And hopefully you guys check it out for those that are not a part of that already. Irving says, you mentioned that you worked on toys a while ago. Is there any specific workflow for creating joints? Well, creating joints back then, creating joints back then was a lot different in ZBrush, at least, because we didn't have live booleans. But for toys, typically, what happens is the people that are commissioned, so myself, my team, that are commissioned to work on the toy, entirely work on the sculptural side of the toy, anything that is, so I do have a lot of experience with joints and creating that kind of stuff in ZBrush, and at least at that time, any of the joint style stuff is done completely by the production side of things. So it's shipped off to China typically, and then from there they butcher your nice sculpt so that it can work with a nice joint. And as someone who's done all the joints, it's really hard to get something nice out of a nice joint in terms of form and everything else. It can be really tough, but yeah, in terms of workflow, with live booleans now, it's a lot easier, so much easier. But back then it was all about taking time to make sure that it's super, super clean, and make sure you have all your clearances set. You have to know what your scale is in ZBrush, what you're working with, what you're measuring with, and there are lots of different things that go into to getting an accurate scale. But essentially what we had was we had objects with exact unit measurements in them that we could import to make sure some clearances and thicknesses and everything were set correctly, so that all of that was a little bit easier for us. But still, you know, there's a lot of trial and error that goes into that kind of thing when you're working in ZBrush, which is not the most accurate of softwares for that. But if you guys are familiar with Freeform, Geomagic Freeform, it's like a $30,000 software. We had, I think we had 2 licenses of that. We had like a lesser version, and then which is like 15 to 20,000, and then we had the higher version, which is like 35-ish. I think I can't. It's ungodly expensive. It uses this device called a haptic, and I'll stop talking here in a sec so I can actually do something. But that essentially it's sculpting plus CAD. It's extremely expensive software, and it can do things that are like mind-blowing. If you could do these things in ZBrush, it would be absolutely amazing. But that would be the basic workflow and idea there. All right, guys. So the stitching, the bitching. We have successfully created a little bit of build-up around that area, a little bit of a negative and inflate to get that idea that it's touching there. Let's turn off our weapon. And weapon is off. Okay. Come on. So looking at our legs here, I might do a little trick here to increase the resolution in our Dynamesh. Something I haven't done in a little while, but essentially you can kind of cheat it a little bit to get a little higher resolution. It's just that it's frustrating. I'm trying to, it might just be, let's try something real quick. It might just be what we're looking at here. Let's do this. Let's turn off all our color. Render. Let's do... do that. I'm just trying to see if the shadows in like this area are gonna work to kind of read that this is going into his body, or if I need to exaggerate that area even more. Come on. I think I need to exaggerate him a little bit more. That one's closer. That one's not. Alright. Look at it from back here as well. Raphael says, are you willing to mentor? I'm trying to get a solid knowledge on workflow for my toy design collection. I'm trying to get them out next year, but I know I need to figure some things out before. And Irving says, it costs as much as a kidney. Yeah, that's Geomagic Freeform. Go ahead and look it up. It's I don't think they even list the price like on their website, because because it's so damn expensive that they do it on a per quote basis. It's like per need. You have to like talk with an associate or representative of the company or whatever, a sales representative, and then like based on your need, they'll give you a quote on how much it's going to cost. Because if they sell like 2 copies a year, they're like, we're good. But God, it's expensive. It really is. But yeah, I don't know. It's amazing. It's incredible software. Raphael, back to your question. Sorry. My Patreon is kind of on hold right... Is this it? Yeah. My Patreon's kind of on hold right now because I'm working on the Art War competition doodad. You guys can go to the link down in the description and follow along and see all my progress on this. Follow along with that stuff. And then there's a ton of other... if you go to here, or if you go to my page and then click on Art Challenges, you can look at all the other Art War 2 people that are submitting their stuff. There's a lot of other people that are doing amazing stuff. It's so awesome. There's some really cool stuff. But yeah, in terms of mentorship on my Patreon, I offer a I only have 3 limited spaces that I do, and I have 1 person in it already that I do. I don't know if I would consider it a mentorship. Essentially, it allows you to receive, like, if you want to send me some of your work, and I can do a sculpt over along with a feedback video and give you the feedback video and kind of talk with you on that. And we can talk more about that if that's something that you're interested in. It just kind of, I don't exactly have time to do, you know, a mentorship relationship, like student-teacher kind of relationship one-on-one quite as often. It's just hard to, I won't say balance that kind of thing, because I don't think balance is a good word, especially if you're an artist. I don't think you should attempt to be incredibly balanced, because you have to make sacrifices for what you want to do. And that's why I stream, because I do want to hang out with you guys and show you as much stuff as I can that's maybe new for you, and I what am I trying to say? I'm trying to be able to be in a situation where I can get my own work done and also share as much as I can at the same time. And it's a hard thing to do, because it's hard for me to sculpt and talk at the same time. I think it's hard for anybody to do that. It's hard to find a good balance there, and I don't want to use that word, but I will. It's hard to do that, and hopefully some of this stuff has been helpful for you guys, and hopefully some of the other tutorials that I've created have been helpful for you guys. That's why I create them, to help out in some way. So hopefully we've achieved that a little bit. But yeah, in terms of mentorship, it's tough. It's really tough. I don't know. We can talk, maybe figure something out. But if there's anything specific that you have questions about, or if any of you guys have questions about, please feel free to email me or message me at any time. Don't think I'm like some unapproachable dude. Feel free to email me. Ask me whatever questions you got. I don't mind. I'm pretty quick at emailing back too, because I literally cannot have an inbox with email in it. It's just, gotta get rid of them. Gotta answer all these messages as quick as possible. So I'm trying to clean up some of these, because after looking at that render, it became fairly obvious that a lot of our shadows aren't working out quite the way we want on these. So I'm just trying to exaggerate some of the form, some of this stuff going on, and hopefully build that up. get a little bit of a better shadow. Pull this closer now. Tom says, I'm soon to start ZBrush. I've bought your supercut. Looking forward to getting into it. I'm just curious, do you still enjoy using ZBrush, or is it mostly mundane now? It depends on the day. Sometimes I fucking hate ZBrush. When it's crashing on me, and just sometimes you just need a break. But you know, it's my full-time job. It's what I do. And thank you, Tom, very much for purchasing the ZBrush Supercut. Appreciate your support, and I hope that you find the content within useful and helpful for you. Sometimes, but I find ZBrush a lot of the time to be very therapeutic. And that takes a long time to get to that stage. When you're starting out, I'm not gonna lie, it's frustrating. It's very frustrating. I won't sugarcoat it. There's some hard speed bumps to get over, and I hope that the ZBrush Supercut helps you get over those speed bumps as quick as possible, because that was my intent with creating that content. But I would say for the most part, yes, I absolutely enjoy it. I absolutely enjoy it. I wouldn't do it if I didn't like it. I am of the thought of everybody does what they want. At the end of the day, you're gonna do what you want. If you want to get better at art, you're gonna do that. You're gonna practice it, and you're gonna make the sacrifices to make that happen. But if you want to watch Netflix every night, I do like Netflix, then you're gonna do that too, or you're going to do that. You know, it really comes down to your self-motivation and that kind of stuff there. So for me, I want to work in ZBrush. I want to improve in ZBrush. Therefore, I will make the sacrifices necessary in time and everything else. Which is why it was so hard for me to use the word balanced earlier, because you really do have to be obsessed with art to really, I think, see results in a timely manner, I would say. You gotta make sacrifices. That's true for anything, though. I think people from the outside looking in see art as this magical thing, right? It's like, oh, you're so talented. You're so good at playing that violin. It's like, what? I practice violin 4 to 6 hours every single day. And that's not including, you know, playing shows and gigs and playing in my, I don't know, wherever you play. It's like, I worked hard for these skills. This isn't some magic talent. I fought for this. That's how I feel about it. I think a lot of people agree, though. Raphael says, didn't see that tier. I'll take a go at it as soon as the models are ready. Yeah, definitely check it out. And like I said, email me if you guys have anybody feel free to email me. Questions or whatever you got. Tom says, I appreciate your honesty. I don't mind the frustration, as struggle is where skill is built. You say that now. No, you're absolutely correct, though. The greatest form of knowledge is wisdom, and the only way you can acquire wisdom is through experience. I think the only way you can acquire like really true knowledge is through experience as well. You know, this dumb little kid's gonna touch that stove if you tell him it's hot. But once they find out it's hot, you know, they probably won't be too quick to touch that stove in the future. But yeah, it's tough, and I'm glad that you understand that, and you're willing to go push through it. It's not an easy thing to do by any means, and I wish you the best of luck. Absolutely. And of course, feel free to, like I said, if you got any questions, come hang out on the stream. Anything like that. I'm always here. I don't stray too far. You know where to find me. Let's go back to these. And I think it was the bottom one that wasn't casting a shadow very well. Can't remember. Yes. That might just be because it's in shadow already. Also, the polygons are garbage. We'll make this work. We'll clean it up. Yes, talent really downplays your achievement. Yeah, I mean, like, Usain Bolt is, Usain Bolt's not talented. Usain Bolt works his ass off. You can say that about anything. There's absolutely people, I think, that are, better better, or you could say faster at learning or improving at certain things, more so than other people. But I think there's so many factors that play into that, including, your biology, and, like, obviously, one child is going to be better at a sport just because they're physically different than another child or a human. Not to even use children as an example, but absolutely, there's so many factors that play into that. Your background, everything. But I think a lot of it does come down to experience, which is why I think a lot of artists dislike that word talent, or dislike the word anything around that. It's just kind of, like you said, downplays all that hard work you did. Thank you. I'll be sure to do that. Yes. So right now I'm just inflating around these edges, and then I'll probably blend them after a Dynamesh. I'm just trying to exaggerate these a little bit more, because I noticed that in that quick render I did, that shadows weren't as strong as I wanted. Form change wasn't as strong as I wanted. And I think there's a little bit of a sharp transition there, but like I said, we'll smooth it out, clean it up. And we got some weird geometry in here happening, and I would like to Dynamesh that to clean that kind of stuff up, just to combine some stuff like that after the fact. Oh, a couple more. Is there a star there? Figured there would be a 5-point star there in the geometry, but there wasn't. Not sure how that happened. It's probably a projection problem. When I was getting my subdivs back. Up here I didn't even do any inflate. It's kind of Bad Ben. Alright. So I want to show you guys a little trick here that you probably don't see very often, or have never seen before unless you've seen me do it. I haven't really seen too many people do it, or anybody. Quick save. And then we're gonna turn our color back on as well. Keep in mind, so I'm about to Dynamesh, but keep in mind that when you Dynamesh, Dynamesh can remember one of two things. You can remember your poly paint that is on your mesh, or it can remember your poly groups. So if I turn off my paintbrush and I Dynamesh this, let that do its thing, and then I turn my paintbrush back on, there's no poly paint on that. So it's gone. It's gone forever. So if you have a face that you're working on and you spend all this time, step on back, and you spend all this time like painting this character and then you Dynamesh it later, just be careful that you don't get rid of your poly paint. So keep that in mind. Alright. So what we're going to do here is, because Dynamesh is dependent on the scale of the object in your scene, number of units, Dynamesh works best at ZBrush. All tools in ZBrush work best at around 2 units. So we're going to try to scale up and get a little closer to that. So I'm just going into Tool, Deformation, so Tool Palette, scroll on down, Deformation, Size, click and drag, pull that all the way up to 100. And I'm going to perform a Dynamesh on this. And let's start with a 3K Dynamesh, just to see what this does at this scale. 2 million polys. It's really hard to get Dynamesh to go over 3 or 4 million. So that's 3.6. That I am happy with. And we'll change our material here. That's closer to what I was looking for in terms of poly count, so that's good. So if I, unhide everything, you can see that that's out of the way. That's because I scaled it up. So if I just go back and drag that size all the way back down to 100, lines up perfectly. Now if I Dynamesh at this scale, so real quick, I'll just make a change and then Dynamesh again, watch our poly count. Our poly count's not even 1 million. And that's because it's much smaller in scale. So like I said, keep that in mind. The scale of the object in your scene will depend on your Dynamesh resolution. So that's a little trick there to trick Dynamesh into doing what you want it to do. So I have it at the highest possible resolution. There's also Dynamesh Master, which you can use to control the Dynamesh level a little bit better. We can maybe play with that here and try to adjust it, but there are some options in here. So let's see, I'll change my material. Can't really read this. Sets the amount in which the subtools will be sized. Scaling is done by using the size function in the deformation palette. So as you can see here within Dynamesh Master, they know this little trick. Obviously, I think this was created by someone that works at Pixelogic. Not all, to my knowledge, not all the Z plugins are. I think anybody can create a plugin with ZScript, and there are definitely people that I know that have. But you can use these functions to do pretty much what I just did there, and set up some different options in there. And you can attempt to create the poly count as well. So let's say we want to do around 4. Let's see if we can do this. So we'll say, we'll just do 4 million polygons. Let's see if we can get it to do what we want. And if you look at that, it just scaled it up. So it's doing what we just did automatically to make it possible to get 4 million polygons there. And if you look at the number, it's not even 4. It's not even 4 million. So it did it for us. Then it scaled it up, Dynameshed it at some resolution, 2595, because it thought that was appropriate. Obviously it was wrong. So let's go on back. It also moved it around, did a bunch of stuff, a bunch of weird stuff here. Alright, so I'm just going to do it manually because I want an appropriate Dynamesh resolution size. So I'll Dynamesh at 4K at this extremely large size and try to get it closer to 4. So that's 3.5. I think that's good for what we're looking for. And then just kind of move it down here. So that's a little explanation of some of the tricks for working with Dynamesh and scale and size, and actually how it's done in the Dynamesh Master plugin, which is available on the Pixelogic forums, if I am not mistaken. If you just Google Dynamesh Master, you should be able to find it. But like I said, you know, even with that, I still did it manually, and it worked out better. So I'm going to fill that material, fill it on here. And I'm just going to turn off my material so that I can see better. And do basic. And we'll work on cleaning up some of this as well now. Let's see, sorry. Read some of these. Rohit says, kinda late, but I made it. Absolutely. You're fine, man. No worries. Gremlingo says, cool design. Breakcore, hello. Hello to both of you and everybody else that's hanging out. Tom says this is damn useful. Well, I'm very glad you think so. And I hope you find the rest of it very useful. But yes, here's our full character. If you thought Bork was cute, fun. This is for the Art War 2 competition for the people that are just popping in here that maybe haven't been here before. This is my character that I'm working on. If you want to see the progress on this character as I've kind of worked on it from the ground up, you can look down in the description. I think it's the first link there. It'll take you to my my forum post where you can follow along and see what we've been doing. Right now we are working on Bork, our little Borky boy. That's the name of our puppy Doge. Down here, and kind of cleaning some stuff up on him and showing off some different techniques and some other stuff. Hopefully help you guys out. Sounds like it has been helpful thus far, and hopefully continues to be as we go here. But yeah, that's the gist of it thus far. And here we are, continuing to do some stuff. What was I gonna say? Oh yes, actually just yesterday, what's it called? Petland, I think. My girlfriend and I went to a pet shop. It's called Petland, and we just spent like maybe an hour in there playing with a little Shiba puppy. Inu is so Shibas are Japanese breeds. And if you don't know what a Shiba is, it's essentially, you know, Doge, the meme D-O-G-E, Doge, however you want to say it, Doge. That is a Shiba. And Inu in Japanese just means dog. So when you say Shiba Inu, you're essentially just saying Shiba dog. But we played with like the cutest, it was like 11 weeks old. It was so cute. It was amazing. And, you know, I want a puppy really bad, but I don't want to spend as much as this dog cost. I was like, how much is it? And then they kind of went through the whole rigmarole of like, well, it comes with this and papers and protection, insurance, health shots, blah blah blah. And I was like, how much is it? And he's like, 4,000 real American dollars. And I was like, okay, bye. Wow, see ya. This dog was super cute, but it was not $4,000 cute. It was not the price of a used cheap vehicle cute. But oh man, it was adorable. I kind of wanted to just stuff it in my coat, see if I could sneak out with him. But you know, Shiba Inus are incredibly rambunctious, wild, so he was all over the place. Probably wouldn't have worked. But oh man, He was so cute. I took some pictures of him. I'll post them. I'll throw them up on Twitter. But $4,000 for a dog is like ridiculous. Alright, so some more cleanup here. This song is just a bunch of echoing, so let's do a different one. We're on the ambient station, so that makes sense. If you guys don't know about Pretzel, by the way, shout out to Pretzel. It's this little application. You can use it in their browser too, but it's really cool. It just plays a bunch of royalty. I think it's just all royalty or copyright-free music. And there's a ton of really good stuff on there. I'm a huge fan. And I use it all the time. Even when I'm, you know, not on stream, I'll just listen to a bunch of the stuff. There's some really good stuff on there. But yeah, shout out to the peas. The Pretzel peas. Bunch of different stations, all sorts of jazz. So I'm doing some softening to the build-up, the inflate build-up that we did. Here's some. This is like weird pinch geometry in here. Really, I'm not worried about it. I could dynamesh that out and get rid of it, but not really a problem. It's not seen. I'm trying to exaggerate these a little bit more, but also clean up the transition between the forms. And I'm trying to do this so that once I switch the material, the shadows will show up a little bit better. As you guys saw what I was working on, that little quick render we took there. Oop, there we go. Let's see here. Raphael says, at some point will you re-topo or lower the poly count? Absolutely not. I will not be doing manual retopology on this character. I am especially not going to manually retopologize an already posed character. That would be insanity. No, definitely not. If I was going to retopo this, I would have done so when it was in its T-pose form, not now, after posing. That would be completely backwards. And like I said, insanity. Nope, no manual retopo in posed form. Cody, what's going on? And Gremlingo, what software do you use when making designs? This one right here, ZBrush. That's the software I use. The one I'm using currently. If you're talking about 2D stuff, I don't do a lot of 2D stuff. I conceptualize a bunch of stuff here in ZBrush. Why is that so big? Do I have something else? Ah, that's weird. I don't do a lot of 2D conceptualization. If I'm going to concept something, I'll typically do it purely sculptural, purely 3D, and then kind of build up and go from there. We were talking earlier about balance, right, and all this stuff, and someone was asking about how long I had been using ZBrush, how long I'd been sculpting. I haven't been sculpting that long, but the reason I believe that I've been able to get to the level that I'm at today is because I've been unbalanced. I have taken all my eggs, my precious little eggs, and put them in one basket. And I did that intentionally because I don't think being balanced is a good thing. I don't think trying to... You will be a master of none. and a journeyman, maybe a novice of all, you have to pick something. You have to. And I am a firm believer in that you either decide what you're gonna do, or someone else will do it for you. And I'd much rather dig my own grave than have somebody else do it for me. Meaning that even if I pick something and I hate it, if I pick something that I want to do for the rest of my life, which I've chosen as 3D modeling, as ZBrush digital sculpting, working on toys, collectibles, and all these things, I chose that. I got to choose that. And even if 10 years from now I absolutely hate it, at least I chose it. At least I, chose the thing that I'm gonna hate forever. I would hate nothing more than to be stuck at a job that I hated, or doing something that I hate, and know that somebody else chose that for me. That would be terrible. I would hate that. But I don't hate ZBrush, and I don't hate what I do. I love what I do. I love sculpting, and I love working here in ZBrush, and that's another one of the reasons why I think why I'm where I am right now, and grown in what I consider a relatively short amount of time, because I like it. I do like it, and I want to work in it. And like I always say, you always do what you want to at the end of the day, so you might as well make it something something that you love. Let's see. Have you used the PureRef app? I don't think so. If it's the one where it just shows up the image and there's like zero border around it, then maybe. I might be thinking of something different though. Really cool for having your images as ref in one place in case of not wanting to load Spotlight. Yeah, for people that are regulars or have seen me sculpt here before, I typically use Spotlight to like throw up images in here. But on my other monitor, I typically, let's see. Let me find an example references real quick. Where is it? I can't find anything. Typically what I'll do though is I'll throw up a bunch of images in Photoshop. This isn't it, but this is a pose. These were a bunch of poses that I was choosing between for stuff, but same collage idea. On my other monitor, I'll have Photoshop open with a bunch of different images, and then what I'll do is in Photoshop, what is it, F? If you press the F key, it will hide your user interface, and then you can kind of just click and zoom around in here. I use Control and Space to zoom in Photoshop at the same time. It lets you kind of zoom in like this. I don't know, that's just the way I do it. But it gets rid of the UI, and then you have a collage of photos that you can zoom out, zoom in on specific images, like, oh, here's this reference, and here's this reference, and this one. And I think you guys get the idea. But that's what I like to do. Just because it's quick and easy, and I use Photoshop for just about everything, and it's already there, and I don't need another application to do something that Photoshop can already do pretty well. But if that's the one that doesn't have any borders, then I think I have used that one. Jinsei says, how long have you been using ZBrush? 400 years. Cody Craig says, recently I bought a new computer and had a break from modeling. Well, that's pretty cool. New computers, always nice. I always like upgrading my machine. I probably won't need to upgrade too soon. But yeah, Jinsei, I talked at length about that topic a little earlier in the stream, so if that's something that you're interested in, please do roll back. I don't want to kind of give a SparkNotes version because I don't think that would do that question justice again. Should have like a FAQ page somewhere for frequently asked questions that I can just point people to. But yes, I think that's much better on our Bork character. I'm much happier with that now in terms of that interplay that we got between those different stitches and the build up around those areas. It's a lot stronger. So yes, let's see here, render, all set up. This isn't the material that we're going to be rendering in, but I would like to do just a quick view. I'm using the Skin Shade 4 material right now, and I'm simply using that because it gives a really good ability to block out colors and get a decent amount of form and shadow in there, and it's just a decent material for prevising this kind of stuff before I throw it in Keyshot. And that's gonna take a second. I should have hid all the extra junk that we don't need. HUDboy says, that's really good to know. I had no idea Photoshop does that with the user interface. Also never knew that there was shortcuts like that for navigating that easily. Yeah, gosh, I don't know why, but when I was in college, okay, so here. So the space bar, first of all, so the space bar, my hand is like fucking glued to my keyboard down in this lower left quadrant where my pinky is always on the control key and my thumb is always on space, because in ZBrush that's how my UI is set up to work. But in Photoshop, spacebar is the little hand grabby tool, which is what, H on your keyboard the shortcut is for? Yeah, that's correct. And then Z is like the zoom, but like, why would I do that when I can just spacebar like this, and then I just hold the control key while holding space as well. And I never, like, I can just hold space, hold control, and it's like, wow. But I remember in college, like, everybody was like, why do you do it that way? I'm like, it's so much easier. They're like, yeah, but the zoom tool's like right over here. I'm like, no. Shortcuts, if there is a shortcut for it and it makes it easier, I will use that shortcut. All right. So I think this is much improved at this point. Let's hide that. I'm not actually positive, but I believe even if something is off your document canvas here in ZBrush, it seems that it still takes into account rendering those subtools, even though they're not visible. I don't know if that's completely true, but it does seem, at least in some case, that it is. I'm much happier with the way that these are working now. And I hope that you guys can kind of see the difference from our last render that we took there. Whoa, that was weird. Super zoom. Having some trouble snapping there. That's another just real quick comment on shortcuts here. I cover this in my How to ZBrush Supercut and in my How to ZBrush series. But when navigating ZBrush, I used to work with a guy, and he navigated ZBrush this way, and he was stuck doing it. Essentially, he'd been doing it so long that it was very difficult for him to switch. But he eventually did, because he eventually saw how much better it was to do it the way I'm about to show you. Why is that there? I need to clean some of this stuff up. But in ZBrush, the way that a lot of people are taught to navigate is to click on your canvas and drag, and that lets you navigate around. That is a terrible way to navigate in ZBrush. And there's also these little objects over here, if you don't know about them. They do all the options that you can do with the keyboard shortcuts in these buttons. But let's say you're zoomed in really far on your character and you're sculpting. Here's some form of the canvas. Okay, so I can click and maybe drag and move my camera here. But let's say we're zoomed in even farther and we don't have that option. We can't see our canvas, right? Or here, let's do a better example that might be more realistic. we're working on these rocks. And I zoom in, and I'm like, okay, I have to zoom out and now click up here to move. Well, there's this little white edge out here that if you click in, it will not sculpt, right? It's like, oh, well, I can use that little tiny white edge out here to rotate my model. What I recommend is don't do that. It's garbage. This is garbage. This should not exist. I don't believe it should exist. Instead, you should do what I'm doing when I work. It's to right-click. The right-click and left-click navigation in ZBrush do the exact same thing. Try it out. So I'm left-clicking, right-clicking. It does the exact same thing. It works for zooming, it works for moving, it works for everything. It's exactly the same. But with left-clicking, it sculpts on your mesh. It will sculpt for you. But with right-clicking, when you hover over geometry and do it, it is still navigation. Therefore, you should always use right-click for navigation. So when you're zoomed in really far here, right-click, you can click on your geometry instead of left-clicking. Right-clicking gives you the power to navigate no matter what is on your screen. And you don't even have to think about it. You don't have to worry about it. You can zoom, you can put your mouse wherever you want, and it becomes second nature to do these things. And most of the time my mouse is always where my geometry is, so I couldn't even work if this wasn't possible. I couldn't work the way I do if right-click navigation didn't exist. And like I said, a lot of people learn that, you know, click on your canvas and that's how you do it. It's like, don't do that. You're gonna build really bad habits by doing that. So if you're kind of just getting into ZBrush, try to build that habit early by right-clicking and navigating that way. So much better, so much improved, in my opinion. I think objectively, most people would agree. The zoom tool is finicky and annoying. That is actually an amazing trick that I wish more people would mention. And Raphael says, yeah, the advantage of that way is that is temporarily and you don't change your active tool. Yes, that's correct. You can, you know, click and navigate by changing your tool in here, or you can just alt-click and select whatever tool you want that way as well. But let's see how we're doing on time. Yeah, that's what I thought. I've been talking a lot. All right, well, I do believe that that's going to be where we cut our stream today. So hopefully some of that was helpful for you. Hopefully you guys learned some new stuff. And hopefully I didn't talk too much about stuff that everybody already knew. But let me go ahead and save this cool cat. We'll save this in our Art War 2 folder. And we'll name it something new for today. Whoops. Cody says, somehow I cannot switch to work with a tablet. Still modeling with the mouse. Oh no, Cody. I recommend just grabbing a cheap Wacom, or Wacom, as it's pronounced in Japanese. Just grab a bamboo tablet. You can get them for like $50 if you don't already have a tablet. And just use it for a week. Just use nothing but that tablet for like a week. I don't know what your job is, or if you're a student or whatever. But whenever you're using ZBrush or Photoshop or whatever you're doing, just always use your tablet, and in a week I think you'll be used to it. But it's so much more powerful than a mouse, and it's absolutely worth getting used to. Much more accurate, has the pressure sensitivity, much faster in my opinion. But yes. Give it a go. Give it a go. Alright guys, thanks again for coming. Like I said, hope you learned some new stuff, and links down in the description to some helpful tools and whatnot if you're interested in those. And yes, Cody, I do think so. Try a week to model. Yeah, try it. I think give it enough time and you'll get used to it, and I think you'll be better for it. But with that said, I'll see you guys in the next stream, next video, whatever we got next. Depending on what I'm doing tomorrow, we'll see where I get with this. But I'll let you guys know if I'm going to stream. Follow me on Twitter or wherever. There's links somewhere on my YouTube channel to those. If you're or just subscribe. I think it notifies you that way. But until the next one, I will see you guys then. And thank you for coming in. So have a great day. Cody, 2 Gremlingo, Raphael, Hudboy, Cody. I think it's just said Cody. Tom, Rohit, Irving. Who else? Luna Lay, Anubis, Vaunt, Maxtor, Walter, and all you other stalker lads and lasses just hanging out, never typing anything. You know who you are. All right, I'll see you guys in the next one, and have a great day.